Hello and welcome to We Are Venture, the podcast for venture lifestyles. I'm Lara and this is Ruby.
Hi friends.
This podcast is an insight into our personal experience of creating and launching a startup brand. We're here to give you an honest take on some of the highs and lows and what we've learned throughout the journey so far. Hello, welcome back.
Welcome.
Episode 10, and actually the final episode of our first 10-part series.
Yeah.
So, we're really excited for this one. It's something a bit different. And for those of you that joined us last week for episode 9, it was lovely to have a guest on for the first time, Tanya. We hope that was something that you enjoyed. And it's actually something we want to explore a bit more in the future. So stay tuned for that.
Super insightful.
Yeah. Exactly. And we have so many ideas of different people that we can bring on board. It was just nice to mix it up a bit instead of just having us.
Yeah, it was like a freshener really, wasn't it? And I think that's almost what's led us now to today's episode, which is again a little bit different. Bringing in externals.
Yeah, we wanted to open it up this week. So even though we're not massively present on social media yet, we do have a small following, and so we put out the question of basically ask us anything. It's a Q&A round this week, and it was anything about us, the brand, the journey, business in general. We can just see what we can do. It was a
free-for-all, wasn't it?
Yeah, and we've had some really nice questions, a couple of the same, but basically we're just going to work through them this week, and it's going to inspire a bit of conversation.
Yeah, and hopefully answers some questions that other listeners or viewers may have.
Exactly, So should we start on that? Yeah. So I've got them here in front. Yeah.
You kick off.
So first thing, a couple of questions about this. When will we find out more about the clothing? So when will the items of clothing be available to buy? A few people ask this, when will the launch of the product be? So several questions on this topic. Okay. Do you want to start on that one?
Yeah, sure. So I think it's probably safest to say by the end of the year. Yeah,
that's the aim.
Because that is our goal. If everything based on what we've done and organised goes to plan, it will be by the end of the year.
Yeah.
However, we've learnt the hard way that sometimes things are taken out of our control.
Yes.
And things get pushed back, and you just feel a bit stupid, don't you, when you give a specific date or month and then it doesn't follow through.
We've definitely learnt that. I actually was doing a bit of I suppose research and learning more about running a business recently. And one thing that was reiterated was never put an exact date until you know you're going to meet that. Until you have the clothing in your hand, until you have everything ready to go, because there is always going to be some form of delay. Unfortunately we can't give an exact date, but it is so soon, isn't it? Yeah. It's so close, and we're really excited. So
I think
that's
by
the
saying
answer.
The end of the year, we're allowing a period of grace almost.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hopefully it's going to be a lot sooner than that.
Yes. And it's one of those things that I think we've mentioned on previous episodes where we're kind of waiting for a lot of things, and then once it happens, it will be like a domino effect, and it'll all come together. That's probably answering that question. Short and sweet, really. And off the back of that as well, someone also asked, when is the next wellness event? I came to the last one and it was such a lovely day.
Oh, that's so nice. That's so nice.
Again, do you want to start with that one?
Yeah. So when's the next wellness event? Well, we initially said, didn't we, that the next wellness event that we do will actually be coinciding with our launch as something that is going to be a bit more of a spectacle, I guess.
Because I suppose we know that we want to put a lot of energy into the launch event. So even though we'll be launching online, we still would like to do a local in-person event, almost like a pop-up, I suppose.
Yeah.
Just to mark the occasion, and also just to... Yeah.
It's so lovely as well for the people in the community that have supported, even if it's just through word of mouth. And
exactly.
It's nice to organise something and see those faces again, because we don't do it.
No.
We get a message here and there, but to actually catch up and see people in person.
Yeah, I know for me, like
special.
it's one of those moments I've visualized probably the most from like the start of the journey, like that launch moment and like seeing it and having it. And oh gosh, so that's really exciting. So I'd say, again, we can't give specifics on a date, but that's probably going to be the next one. And then in terms of future events, like we've had discussions. We have so many ideas. It's something that we want to be achievable. And obviously, as our focus shifts to like running the brand itself and like focusing on the clothing, the wellness events were never the primary focus. But if we can continue to do those, even if it's like quarterly or, you know, a one big one every summer or whatever it is, it's definitely going to be a reoccurring thing.
Yeah. We love them too much not to do it. And it serves such a lovely purpose. Yeah. Not just for marketing, for the brand, which is it's almost how it started. Yeah. Now that we've formed a community, and I almost don't like to say that, but people that we know that will come back and tell their friends and have given us such great feedback. We need to do it again. It needs to be a reoccurring thing.
Exactly. So 2025, we shall see what happens.
Yeah.
Okay, so a little bit more now, shifting gears, about the process, about how we operate things, I suppose. So the first one, something nice and light. What was your favourite bit of the process? What has your favourite bit of the process been so far and why?
What would you say to that?
I mean, it's ever changing because I feel like as things are coming together, I enjoy it more and more, if that makes sense. And like for me, the more like the closer we get, the more excited I get about it. And I feel like, as I say, like the launch process for me is probably what I'm like itching for. Yeah. I think obviously the podcast has been a huge highlight. This whole process, coming together, creating it, being in the room. So I know, I'm giving more than one answer. But again, this probably for the reason of the reflective side of it. I love to talk also, being a performer. Like I'm just comfortable in this environment. So this for me is probably, and then probably my final answer would also be the very early stages, like we're talking when the idea sparked, like when we had that first conversation. Like it's not necessarily the favorite part of the process, but it's a core memory that I'll always like hold dear, I suppose.
Yeah. Mine would probably be, again, the same, like the initial stages. Yeah. And us buzzing with the idea. But that's almost more of a memory. Like, yes, it's a highlight. I don't know. It's not. It's something that.
I know.
But moving forward with the brand, the design, obviously, it's an obvious answer for me to say, but that really was and is my favourite part, and that is what I just adore so much, as well as the wellness events.
Yes, I suppose with the design thing as well for you, it's like, obviously we did a lot of design work on loads of different garments. And then when we finally decided what our first collection and launch was going to be, like, obviously it's kind of stopped now, hasn't it? Like you've designed the item. So it's a bit of a stale moment. And it's like almost eager for the next collection. So I can understand that that's almost a time that's of the past.
I was almost
moment.
Getting like drip fed with small designs like packaging.
Exactly. It's like the basics.
Okay, I'll take my hit off that.
That's so true. A little label. Little square. Okay, nice. So that's I hope that answers that question.
Yeah, that's a cute one.
So kind of relevant to that as well is, how many hours a week do you currently invest in your business? Ooh. I think that's a really good question.
Yeah. For me, that's fluctuated.
Yeah, absolutely.
Depending on literally what we've just spoke about. Yeah. So whilst I was in the height of designing, days, hours. It was before work, after work, and on my days off, you know. Now, I mean, it's something, I don't know about you. I know we speak about it. We do speak about it every day.
Yeah.
But actually sitting down and dedicating time to it, I would probably say 2 days a week.
Yeah. I think,
which doesn't sound like a lot, but when you think of it as 2 full days, whether that's split up over the whole week in sections, because you have to remember as well that we have other jobs,
we have
other passions. It's not. This isn't our
And that's the thing. It's like until this becomes that full-time priority where it will be a 5-day a week. I mean, ideally, if we're our own bosses, it'll be 4 days a week and we'll have a lovely long weekend.
That is so wishful thinking. I feel like I've made that joke to so many people and they're like, it's the opposite.
Yeah, you will
people
never
that
sleep.
have a successful business that, are just like, it's a...
No.
24 hours, 7-day a week job.
And
you
actually,
never switch off.
Even though, as I say, it's not our full time, I do find I'm not always as disciplined with myself as I should be with switching off. Like I don't really stop. Well, we don't stop thinking about it, do we? We constantly are back and forth every day. It's like just a check-in moment, even sometimes just check in any thoughts or I'll just let you know I've done that email, like things like that. On some days, other days it'll be like several hours at the laptop, like so it does fluctuate and it's not something at the moment that we're necessarily like tallying because
especially that there are things that require more attention, even something as simple as the wellness events or planning a shoot or marketing and like a campaign, you know, whatever it is that we're doing always requires a different amount of time. So some weeks it's pretty full on. Others, as I said before, we're just getting like drip fed.
Yeah. And like at the moment, the phase that we're at now where we're sort of waiting for the garments to arrive, like it is a bit of an in-between period. So things have gone quiet for a little while.
I feel like we have to make the most of this time as much as we're chomping at the bit.
I know.
It's almost the calm before the storm where we're at now.
Yeah. I know. Preserve the energy.
That's it.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess, again, this sort of links to that. Someone asked, so they're currently training to teach actually and getting used to like a working life. But they said, what tips can you suggest for dealing with difficult days and building that resilience? And then also tips for staying motivated will also be very helpful, they said. So
wouldn't they just?
I know. Difficult days, resilience. I think, where do you start with this?
I mean, this is definitely more your forte.
Yeah, I was just going to say,
honest. Like,
I feel like resilience.
My bad days, I hone my bad days.
I think firstly it's important to remember that everyone has bad days and it's okay to have bad days. And I think sometimes we are taught too much to like fight the bad days and like, no, still push through. And I think there's an element of that that's important. Like, don't just give up, you know.
Yeah.
But I know I personally sometimes push too much, put too much pressure on myself on those bad days. And actually you never get as good of a result. And so you sometimes better just be like, bad day.
Yeah.
And if you have the luxury, just go back to bed, honestly. Like, obviously not everyone has that luxury.
We had a conversation that I don't mind being vulnerable right now. So I had a bad couple of days last week and I reached out to you. You already knew. Yeah. But I just said, these are my boundaries. This is what I'm setting. This is what I can give to venture. This is what I can't. Let's work with it. Yeah. You know? Now, this week, who knows what next week will bring? Let's be real. But now I feel like I've had a reset almost because there wasn't that pressure and forcing myself to get things done. Because ultimately, when you're starting your own business, like as we've said before, this is on us. It's our time schedule, our timeline, you know, and the only pressure that's being put on is from ourselves. Yeah,
absolutely.
So
again, we kind of have the luxury in that respect that we can go at our own pace, but then equally, if we don't do it and get it done, it doesn't happen. There's also...
I do think it is tricky as well if, like the person who asked the question, who's clearly teaching, and that's a pretty intense job, to then go home and dedicate time, or before work or whatever, dedicate time to something, or on a Sunday, a Saturday or a Sunday where you're like, I just want to roast dinner. You know, It is hard, and I don't feel like I'm really in a position to be like, okay, well, these are the 5 steps.
No.
Everybody's so different.
They are.
But I hope maybe people take comfort in the fact that we all feel it.
Yeah. And
And
I think I would say that I think resilience is something that's built up over time. I don't think it can be taught, and I don't think you're like born with it. I think it's something you learn over time, and the only way to learn resilience is from the knocks in a way, because the whole point is being able to push back and continue on. So that's the first thing with that, I think. And also
resilience, like, I don't know the definition, but that is you have to go through hardship to then like prove you're like
stay
grit.
strong, basically. Yeah. And I also think the other thing on those difficult days is to like remind yourself why you're doing something, like why you enjoy it, because you're obviously going into teaching for a reason. You have a passion for it. You're good at it. And in fact, I know this person. I know you're good at it.
Yeah.
And
oh, that's nice.
and so remind yourself that, and remind yourself what you're getting out of it, and what the children you're teaching will get out of it, you know, what you'll do for them. And hopefully that will allow you to push through those days and be like, no, like I have a purpose. Like,
I was just about to say, I think this almost goes back to a conversation we had of like, when we said let me get my words out. Our episode of what we wish we knew, basically.
Yeah.
So it goes back to what is your why? As you've just said, what is your purpose? Really like hone in on that.
Yeah,
and that's
absolutely.
how you ride the wave. Well, for me, what's my purpose? What's the why? Why are we doing this?
Yeah.
You know,
and again,
what does it give me and others?
It links to the question about tips for motivated, like staying motivated. I think it's the same thing. Remind yourself of your purpose. I think there's a big difference between motivation and discipline. So like, anyone can find motivation at certain times, but it's being disciplined enough when you don't feel motivated to still carry on. But I think with motivation, it's about like having a goal, reminding yourself why you're doing it. But like giving yourself grace as well. Okay, let's move on. So, was it scary to take the risk and invest your own money? I'm thinking of starting a business myself. 100%. Yes, always. That's the simple answer to that one.
Terrifying, actually.
I think as long as you're smart, you know, don't be reckless and don't invest your last penny ever, you know? Like make sure there is always room for movement, and you've made sensible choices to save. But there does come a point where you have to take the plunge, and you have to be aware that it might not work. And it's as simple as that, isn't it?
Well, they say, don't they, that a lot of again, how do you define success, but in the broad sense of a successful business, people who have that success are risk takers. And they say that you've got to just like take a gamble, and not the hope that it pays off, but almost fall back on a little bit of research that you've done, and like, right, it's only my anxiety for it or the unknown that's holding me back. Rather than taking a leap of faith with zero research or knowledge or preparation. That's reckless.
There's definitely a difference between like a smart investment and a reckless investment. But if you have an idea and you believe in it and you've done the research, go for it. And okay, so similar thing actually. What was the hardest part about going from an idea to setting up venture and actually going for it? I think for me, because we kind of talked about how the idea itself is the exciting part, and even just the initiating the idea is the exciting part. Like that, all of that was easy. I think it got hard for me when it was like the sort of logistical things of like, oh, you have to establish the business on gov.uk and all this stuff. Like it was that for me that was, oh, so this isn't just fun. Like there's other stuff. But I think the actual like going for it thing, again, like it comes from a place of just believing in the idea and not worrying about what other people think of you, and not worrying if it might fail. Like,
because one thing that I will mention is as supportive as our friends and family are, that there was that, I don't know if it was just like my insecurities, like looking for it.
Yeah, I know what you're going to say.
There was almost that like seed of doubt that was planted, like because we envisaged it being such a huge thing and we're both dreamers. Sometimes you get the realistic ones in the bunch that are like, well, I hope so, but how are you going to make it work kind of thing. And
it's funny, there's a question linked to this. Someone said, how did both of your parents respond when you said you were going to start a business? That's the exact same. Yeah, what you're touching on there of like...
I feel like my mom...
Yeah.
So she was mixed. She, at first, very excited. This is great. You know, I think because she knew what my role in it would be and how much joy that would bring.
Yeah.
And then as things started to progress, she was like, okay, so investment and like all the serious things behind that, I've got it covered.
Yeah.
I've thought it through.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's always been supportive, always. But she did ask very valid questions.
Yeah.
She almost like suppressed her. Now she's less excited and more impatient.
Yeah. Yeah. I think she was one of the people that asked, when is the launch? But I think my parents are the same. I think it's, you get different responses from different people. And I think some parents are going to be different to like your friends. And then because your parents just do want the best for you, but equally they don't want you to screw up and like to fall flat on your face. So they probably want to give you that bit of, oh, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? And I also think, which I think we have touched on briefly, is like our parents come from a different generation where it wasn't as encouraged to just go out on your own and set up your own business. Like, they come from backgrounds, you know, my dad's a carpenter, like
have
by
like a trade.
My mom's a teacher, primary school teacher.
Yeah.
So like their career paths were a bit more straightforward. Whereas, you know, my dad does own his own business. He did have to make that jump to go out on his own and establish his name, you know, in construction and everything. But yeah, on the whole, it's offering a service at the end of the day, isn't it? Whereas we're kind of taking something from thin air, literally, and trying to make something of it. And so, I think that was the only thing with my parents. It's like their ability to actually visualize it with me. Like, and because I'm quite convincing as a person, I'm able to share it with them and be like, no, visualize this. And I can kind of like, and they're like, oh no, we see it. But I often think I try not to rely on them for that support, if in a way, because I almost would rather just prove it to them once it's there, and I know they'll be like amazed, you know.
I think my mum treads a fine line between encouragement and support and run with it. Don't stop dreaming, think big, and also a practical approach. Which is how are you going to make it happen?
That's what your parents are for.
I feel like she teeters and it's a bit of a fine line. Sometimes I'm like, enough.
One thing I will say though is, regardless of anything, like I do think our ambition and passion like is a credit to our parents, you know. And it's almost like that's obviously come from somewhere, hasn't it? So even if they don't know it, they've inspired us to go out on our own and like believe in ourselves. So right, so there was a couple of questions actually on like our dreams for the business. So someone said, if you let yourself dream big, what's the vision for Venture Lifestyles? Someone else said, what are your biggest dreams and aspirations for your business? Honestly, it's...
Where do we start?
Yeah, there's no boundaries. Like, because the brand is Venture Lifestyles, we've kind of made that conscious choice to not pigeonhole it. So it's centered around wellness, but that means that it can go off and branch off into any. So firstly, just with the clothing alone, like that the collections are just ever growing. And I suppose the ultimate dream is just for the brand to be recognizable all around the world and worn by millions of people. That is the dream.
Yeah.
In terms of like growth and like other exciting aspirations, like one that comes to mind for me is like wellness cafes that pop ups all around the world with like studios connected with the clothing on sale, like you know, again with this podcast, like dreams of it being in the top 10 like obviously for me, I don't really like ever like limit myself, you know,
as I've just said, we are both dreamers, and there's never a that's ridiculous. We've never had that approach. So I've always said, if you can see it, it can happen. So even if it's extremely far-fetched and way down the line, I'm still going to try and chase it. And I know that we both have that in common.
Exactly.
Fortunately.
So yeah, without boring you on all of that, we could go on and on, literally. Like there's no boundaries, and who knows, but it's limitless, I suppose, is the answer.
The main one for me is international recognition for what the brand stands for.
Yeah.
It's probably how I'd round that off.
Nice. Well put.
Thank you so much.
Okay. A couple of people did ask some questions that we won't spend too much time on. Basically, if you haven't seen some of our previous episodes, we've covered a whole array of topics. And so instead of kind of revisiting those, I'll just like point you in the right direction. So someone did ask, like, how did we meet, and a little bit more about our background. So we recently launched podcasts on this. I think it was podcast 7 and 8, where we talked about our background and like our strengths and weaknesses. There's a little bit in it
in the episode 1
as well.
The initial stages.
But to summarize, we met at school in year 7, which for in the UK is like age 11. We had a mutual friend. We made friends very much like on the first day, really. And then we've been friends ever since. And the other question that was touched on before as well was, how did you come up with the name Venture, and what does it mean to you both? Again, we did go into this on, I think, episode 1. And it's a lovely story. So head on over to the episode from the beginning. It's very like serendipitous, and it's one of those universe moments for us, how we came to the name and what does it mean to us both. I mean, for me, because of how it came about, it means so much. And because of now what that name stands for, like, you can't even imagine the connotations and like the mind map of thoughts that happen when I hear the word venture now. Like, it's so special.
In a few of the books that I've been reading recently, obviously it's extremely well-known, popular word. But as soon as it's any book that I read, I'm like,
same. I see the word venture occasionally and I'm like, oh.
And I'm reading like fantasy novels. Do you know what I mean? So I'm like, oh, venture. Throw that in there.
Exactly. Okay, so we've covered a lot, actually. Trying to like whiz through them as much as we can. I feel like I kind of want to finish on this last little section. So a close friend of mine put this one on, and it's such a lovely question. I know he has a really good understanding of the vision and like of the brand.
I don't know him, do I?
No, I haven't met, but he's a gem. What a good soul.
I don't think I've read or seen this, so I'm looking forward to hearing it.
So he said, Venture is a lifestyle brand that prioritizes healing and empowerment for anyone who wears or engages in the brand.
Nice.
Yes, Cedric.
Yes. Yes, Cedric.
What has been the best mode of healing for each of you? And when do you feel most empowered? So he's kind of flipped that and turned it on like a personal level. So
so I see that either as a personal or within working like within the brand.
Yeah.
So
best mode of healing for each of you, and when do you feel most empowered? So like the contrasting, I suppose.
Yeah, I feel, as I said before in previous episodes, sketching, design, anything creative is my tonic, but I also feel empowered by that. So that would be straight off the bat.
Yeah.
That's done.
Yeah.
But in terms I'm trying to think more deeply about that rather than just thinking, oh, drawing.
Yeah,
you know?
that is, I mean, that's the simple answer. But like you say, the depth of that is, there is depth to that for you. So, yeah, because
What about you?
I
What
would
comes
say
to
for
mind?
me, like when I think of the word healing, I think of like this inner peace, right? So this like being in nature. Like honestly, the most basic forms of self-care for me really work.
Yeah.
You know, like a bit of alone time, like a mindful walk outside, like those basic exercise for me. Oh, it's like done me the world of good over the years. What were you going to say?
I was going to say one of my most favourite things to do, and Rich often like laughs at me, or when he's having a bad day, he'll repeat my words back to me. But what I do is I take my shoes off and I just go stand in the grass in the garden. And when he's having a bad day, he's like, shall I just go stand in the garden barefoot? I'm like, yes, go on.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it, how everyone has the different, like, there's the obvious modes of healing, but like there are so many and that work for different people. But the other one that came to mind for me is like a mode of healing, like because I think I enjoy words, I do enjoy to communicate my thoughts. Yeah. For me, like talking has honestly always been a big, like talking to a therapist, a professional, for me has done me the world of good, but also just to people close to me, like being able to like analyze my thoughts and just like get them out, get them off my chest, you know, like that's so like interestingly quiet, yet also like vocalizing things. So a nice balance of that, I feel. And then in terms of empowered, that's again a big one, because it's like I feel empowered by running this, doing this, you know. I feel empowered by,
I feel a little bit torn by like on a person removing, it's such a layered question.
Yeah.
Do we, I don't know whether to answer it as just like me personally or within the brand, or trying to merge the two together. But
well, can you summarize both? Like what does it differ, you know? Like
wait, was that rhetorical?
Yeah, well, no.
Or are you asking me?
Am I asking? No, I'm asking you. Go on, that's it was kind of. It can be rhetorical if you don't want to answer the question. No, because I was going to say, I think
doing this is empowering.
Yeah, like for me, doing this. But again, like you say, you could link that to everything. Like anything that for me, I always want to achieve. I want to do things with my life. So this is just one example of that. Like pursuing venture makes me feel empowered. Like having my own, something I've created. Again, like being on stage for me is an obvious one. Like that empowers me more than anything. Like standing there, feeling like so at one, you know, on a stage.
I think for me, sorry to interrupt, one just popped into my head. When I feel most empowered, like I have a list on my phone of all the things that I want to do and have ticked off that take me out of my comfort zone.
Oh, yeah.
So I started it back in January, and one of them was go to a gym class.
Right, yeah.
I've always been to the gym on my own, just headphones in, skulk out, don't want, like, try to be in the corner, don't want any attention or eyes whatsoever. And then it came about similarly at the same time when we were like, okay, wellness events and the need to reach out and meet new people and really get out of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
That to me, and seeing it all being ticked off, that's been a huge thing for me as quite an anxious person.
Yeah.
To, achieve and like push myself a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say that for me has been pretty empowering, which is an ongoing thing.
Yeah,
venture
absolutely.
aside, just for me personally.
Yeah.
Highly recommend.
I think the word empowered is so interesting because you can be empowered by like very simple things as well, can't you? So I feel like that's one of those questions I could just explore for like a whole podcast, honestly. Yeah. So I feel like, Cedric, I'm going to message you privately. Yeah. Like I have so much to say. Yeah, because I almost don't want to round that question off because I feel like there's more.
Yeah.
But
I want to give it some thought.
Yeah, same. Because as I say, empowered doing this, empowered being on stage, but equally sometimes empowered, like, like when you've just done a hike and you just stood at the top.
Yes.
Like moments like that, just like a view and like top of the world feeling, like traveling the world and being like, I don't know, like is it empowerment, but connecting with people like from different cultures, like bathing with elephants. I don't know, like that gives
He's
me
going to be so chuffed that it's caused this.
Sense of empowerment. Oh, it's incredible.
Yeah.
Oh, it's special. So, but the fact that honestly that our brand strives to do that for people.
Yeah. And that he can recognize that.
Yeah.
Healing, empowerment, 2 of our words. Like, maybe you've mentioned that to him before, but incredible.
No,
but it's
I know.
just like ingrained into him now, and that's used it within a question.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Bravo.
I think that kind of, that's honestly the best place to finish because it really sends the message as well. Go on.
Yeah, I was going to say, and thank you so much for the people who did like write in and like give us their questions. We've had to categorize them.
Yeah,
you know,
narrow
as you've
them
said,
and group them together.
But hopefully that's answered everyone's questions.
Yeah,
in some way.
Yeah, it's been really nice to be like audience led, I suppose.
Yeah, it's quite refreshing.
It is, and it makes us think as well, because you kind of think, you talk to the camera and to the mic and that, and you're like sharing thoughts, but when there's actually questions to sort of influence the direction of the conversation.
And it's nice to know what interests people. And there are things that a couple of those questions I hadn't seen or read. So it really is off the cuff, and you're like, oh, like it's not prepared or scripted or you know.
And like you say, hopefully it has answered some of those question marks that people have. And
we'll definitely have to do this again in season 2.
Yeah, exactly. A bit further down the line. It has. So should we round it off? It's been a pleasure.
It really has. I can't believe we're on episode 10 of season 1. Done.
I know.
Where's the time gone?
Fabulous.
So maybe it's the perfect time to say thank you so much for everyone who's given their time, listened, watched.
Yes, please continue to share and like and
Spread
subscribe and all
please.
that jazz.
And hopefully we'll see you for season 2.
See you again soon.
Bye.
Ooh.